Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I will be reacting to one of MsMojo's videos titled Top 10 Times Thomas the Tank Engine Traumatized Us. Ooh, now this is interesting because there may be some things that may have traumatized you when you were little or even now. So it'd be interesting to see what comes up in this top 10 list. So with that being said, here we go.
They thought him too old.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times Thomas the Tank Engine traumatized us.
They don't care how big they are, to them it's just a game.
For this list, we'll be looking at some of this iconic kid show's most messed up and freaky moments. Do you remember a Thomas scene that terrified you? Drop us a comment below and let us know.
I mean, for me, it would be a lot of the episodes from season 5, but there was one episode I didn't quite like. It was Thomas Comes to Breakfast. Yeah, I didn't like the way Thomas's eyes just gazed through the bushes, the bricks and the window frame into the station master's house. The worst part was when Donald and Douglas was pulling him out of the house. His eyes just became more... Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Yeah, bad memories. So, let's continue.
Number 10. The Dream Song. Here's a deep cut in the form of a bonus feature from the direct-to-DVD special Calling All Engines.
As the night begins to creep fast across the sky.
The song is a dream sequence showing the engine's fears about what might happen to them when their working lives on the railway come to an end.
Remember how James was so brown and so vain. Look at him now, well he won't be again.
Seeing beloved characters like James, Percy, and Gordon reduced to mere scarecrows and children's playgrounds is surprisingly depressing, even if it's only imagined. The melody and instrumentation of the song don't help either.
Remember how Edward would help and he'd share, but Farmer McCall doesn't now seem to care.
Everything sounds creepy and twisted, especially the key change going into the last verse.
Yeah, she's definitely not wrong on that. I mean, when the children were singing a lot of the Thomas and Friends songs, it did sound a bit creepy, really. And like she says, when the tone, when the pitch of their voices changed at the last bit of the song, that went kind of creepy. So, yeah, I could sort of see that being traumatizing, but in this case, for me, I wouldn't consider it as traumatizing. But, yeah, let's see what else we got.
Number 9.
Oh,
Smudger
yeah.
becomes a generator. On the island of Sodor, a lot of emphasis is placed on how useful or not you are.
He was proud of this and loved to keep the little engines in order.
If you misbehave or don't perform to a high enough standard, you will be publicly shamed for it. Smudger's fate is a great example of this. His cocky and brash ways mean he is careless and often derails. As punishment, his manager removes his wheels and turns him into a generator behind the engine shed, in full view of all of his friends.
He turned him into a generator. He's still out there behind our shed. He'll never move again.
Yeah, I can see how this could be traumatizing. I mean, while Duke was asleep in his shed, everything was growing around him, trees, plants and bushes. Meanwhile, in the shed the Smudger was in, what happened to him then? Did all the trees and plants and bushes grow around the shed, burying Smudger alive? Who knows?
It's such a needlessly extreme response. Smudger is annoying, sure, but breaking him up and making an example of him is simply way too harsh a message to be sending out to children. Number 8. Duke is buried alive.
Ah, speaking of which, Duke being buried alive.
Asking Thomas to tell them a story with a happy ending.
What we need, suggested Toby, is to listen to a story. Yes, agreed Percy, a mysterious story. But, added Duck, it must have a happy ending.
4.5 minutes later, the episode concludes with legendary engine Duke being closed away in a shed and buried under a landslide, lost to the depths of time.
That's That's not a happy ending, cried Percy.
In fairness, the context makes it clear this episode is a two-parter, and it goes without saying Duke will be discovered safely in the follow-up episode. But if you were to see Grand Puff without its sequel, you'd never know Duke was rescued, and his tale would end with him essentially being buried alive.
So they did remember, sighed Duke happily.
You know,
Again,
for
not
kids,
traumatizing,
Number
but
7.
yeah.
Percy's ghostly trick. The early seasons of Thomas don't lack for savage put-downs between the engines.
Rubbish, said Thomas. You're too fat, you need exercise.
But even by those standards, Season 2's Ghost Train pushes the boundary. Percy plays a trick on Thomas to get back at his rude behavior, disguising himself as a ghost to scare him. This sequence is terrifying enough. Just look at the atmosphere.
Do let's pretend I'm a ghost and scare Thomas. That'll teach him to say I'm a silly little engine.
But what landed this moment on our list is Thomas's response to Toby before the trick plays out. Toby implies that Percy has died, or at least been seriously injured, in an accident. But Thomas is more concerned that the accident will make him late for his next service.
Botheration. That means I'll be late.
Some friend Thomas's.
Number 6. Pop goes the diesel. On paper, this scene is pretty harmless.
Duck's eyebrows just not being there.
Pleased to meet you, Duck. Is that James and Henry and Gordon?
Duck humbles Diesel by giving him a train of old trucks with jammed brakes, so Diesel can't move them. Simple stuff, right? Unfortunately, the execution of this sequence feels like it probably could have been done a bit differently. The super intense close-up shots of Diesel and the trucks straining and jerking forward are seriously creepy.
Pull, push,
Yeah.
backwards, forward.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, Ringo Starr is my personal favourite. Out of all the narrators from Thomas and Friends, Ringo Starr was my personal favourite. But yeah, when he did when he did Diesel's growl, when he did the truck screech, oh, like, somehow that was very tranquil. I could actually just relax to that. There is a video online where there's all the good sounds of Ringo Starr's. Close your eyes and listen to his tranquil voice. I'll look up that video, actually. I can leave that in the description down below. But yes, the definite, the scenes where Diesel's face is coming right towards the camera shot, that's definitely something that may have traumatized people back then. So I can understand that, but still not traumatizing to me. So let's see what else we have. Let's see.
And the noises that narrator Ringo Starr makes as the trucks are being dragged are
exactly what I said.
difficult to hear them a certain way. If you
Well,
watched
sort
this
of.
episode as a kid, you probably weren't thinking that way. But looking back now as an adult, you sort of feel like Starr maybe gave away more of his secrets than you ever needed to know. Number 5. Scruffy gets torn apart. We've already featured one example of Sodor residents being publicly shamed for bad behavior, but this punishment takes
And this
things
is
to a whole
in
new
the
level.
top 5, so yeah.
Thinks she's very clever, says that he can manage us. That's the best joke ever.
Oliver and Toad plot to pay back the ringleader of the troublesome trucks, Scruffy, except it turns out the plan is little more than physical abuse. Oliver pulls the leader so hard he quite literally falls apart in full view of the station. Toad and Duck just sit and smile while Scruffy makes noises of pain and is ultimately left in pieces, his body having been pulled apart almost completely.
Yeah, I can understand why this would be in the 5th position. The definite scream from Scruffy was quite terrifying when I was young. I definitely didn't like... I wouldn't say I would have the audacity to fast forward that scene, but yeah, that scene was definitely traumatizing. Yeah, I'll say it's I admit that was traumatizing for me when I was little, but now it is not. So, yeah.
He's patched up and mended by the end of the episode, but it's made clear he was never the same again. When people say Thomas is weirdly authoritarian, this is the sort of thing they mean.
Scruffy has learned his lesson and says nothing at all.
Number 4. The Pouncing Truck. Jump scares and uncanny visual edits probably aren't what come to mind when you think of Thomas and Friends. And if this example of them being used is anything to go by, it's probably for the best they were a rarity.
Oh, it's a sing-along. It's, oh, is it Troublesome Trucks? Yeah.
The Troublesome Trucks music video is pretty sedate and straightforward for the most part. Like most of the Thomas music videos, it's a simple, kid-friendly song set to stock footage from the show itself. Except for some reason, the editors decided to add in this crazy jump scare for no reason.
No one is expecting it, they pounce.
Whoa. Seriously? I've never seen the music video to Troublesome Trucks. But that was actually in it? I mean, I remember that truck being in that episode, Toe Stand By. I remember when Oliver was approaching that truck. But it never did that. It never did pounce. But that truck was definitely... I did like the look of that truck especially. Yeah, how have I not noticed that? Like I said, I never watched the music video, but I know of the song. Huh. That's interesting.
Truck's face is creepy enough already. Why did they feel the need to edit it like this? Nobody needs to see this, quite frankly. Number 3. Spiteful brake van is squashed to death. Another entry, another misbehaving piece of rolling stock being battered to smithereens by an engine.
You're a muckle nuisance, said Donald. It's to leave you behind I'd be wanting.
This time, it's the so-called spiteful brake van. What makes this moment so traumatizing is that it actually features what seems to be as good as death in the Thomas universe.
We'll show them.
The spiteful brake van is crushed so violently that his face detaches from the rest of his body, and you even see it being crane lifted away and out of shot.
Yeah, and especially how the spiteful brake van's face has that mark on his side, which could represent a bruise, so that could show he took quite a beating. But yeah, when the brake van is crushed between Douglas and the truck, all the wood's just snapping, twisting, and turning into the splintering noise. Yeah, that was especially I wouldn't say traumatizing, but it was definitely yeah. I would say maybe traumatizing to a child. It would be traumatizing to a child, but it all depends. Some people have different various moments where some people find things scary than other people's do. So I didn't find this scary when I was little, so yeah.
Absolutely no pity or sorrow is shown either. It's strongly implied that he's straight up been crushed to death by Douglas, and the fact that he's never seen again in the show supports this. Farewell, brake van, we hardly knew you. Number 2, the giant boulder.
Yes, see? Thank goodness there was a Season 5 episode. This is what I'm saying. Season 5, also known as the Dark series. You know, I hate Season 5. I hate it. There are so many close-ups of scary face expressions. This is not one of them, but there is definitely something that could traumatize someone. And I agree, this is it.
What could be worse than being crushed to death by an engine? Almost being crushed to death by a rampaging boulder, that's what.
I think it's watching me, said Rusty nervously. How can it be? Boulders don't have eyes.
And not just any old boulder, but a boulder that sometimes spawns an evil face and is strongly implied to be alive. The boulder appears to want to take revenge on Sir Topham Hatt's decision to build a new quarry. The chaos and destruction it causes as it rolls furiously around the island is genuinely terrifying.
It's running loose, yelled Rheneas. His driver drove him back as fast as he could.
It's like Indiana Jones, but somehow even more wild and menacing. And the episode's ending, which suggests the boulder is still alive and waiting for its next move, is a truly spine-chilling moment. A great but deeply unnerving episode of Thomas.
Yeah, this episode, well, all Season 5 episodes had very dramatic music that gave me the chills, and this especially when Boulder crashed into the engine shed and everything went ablaze. It was the dramatic slowness of all that happening, as well as the ominous music that really traumatized me. So yes, this is traumatizing. This is traumatizing, and it traumatized me as a child.
Number 1. Henry gets bricked up inside a tunnel. You all knew this was coming. One of the very first episodes of Thomas ever, the sad story of Henry features what is, without a doubt, the most messed up and traumatic moment this show had to offer. After stopping in a tunnel to avoid getting wet on a rainy day, Sir Topham Hatt decides that the only solution is to take away Henry's rails and brick him up inside the tunnel. The sequence where workers build the wall in front of Henry is weirdly unsettling, and the narrator's outro monologue just makes us sad. Just look at Henry's face. He does get let out in the next episode, but that doesn't make up for how bafflingly messed up and seriously cruel this all is.
It's interesting. It's really interesting because I can relate to some of these clips being traumatizing, whereas some are not as traumatizing. So yeah, I can see how some people may think certain scenes are traumatizing, but then when I look at them, they aren't. So yeah. But let me know what traumatized you as a child in the comments down below. And very soon I will be doing my video on why I dislike Thomas and Friends Season 5. Be sure to tune in for that video. And until next time, my friends, cheerio!
It's my world.